Did you spend the last few months watching as your mom let some flailing 30-something dude play your records without your permission and move a pinball machine into your living room? Did pre-RoboCop then get your mom so strung out on flake that you thought you and your brawler little bro might have to hightail it to Alaska before being stuck with a much more drastic idea to steal the coke your mom's beau bought with her savings to see what might happen? If so, you must have stumbled into the Unkind Rewind, where we just watched the heightened 1984 Michael Apted family drama, Firstborn.
Get to the chopper!
You know what you are? You're one of those little fancy lads, aren't you?
Link and I are cruising the mountain, bro. We figure we'd a little juice.
Salutations, listeners. I'm Josh Dugan, coming to you from the North Star State. As always, I'm joined by my Munch, my Benson co-host, Adam Schwitters, hailing from the wind-ravaged American Southwest. Been hitting the slopes with Peter Weller, Adam?
You know it, man. There's snow on the cactus, snow on the sand, snows all day for $50 a gram, you know?
Fucking A. Beaming in from Hell's Kitchen, we're also joined by Sean McGrath. You snorted any lines off a pinball machine with Teri Garr this week, Sean?
Yeah, the pinball machine from The Accused.
Is this the pinball machine from The Accused?
No, it should be. I mean, product
right.
placement, right?
Sure. Uh-huh.
Seriously.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I saw Gentlemen Prefer Blondes tonight before
Nice.
Getting back here. And on my way back, I kind of bumped into Andy Cohen, who I must say has a little of the Anderson Cooper rubbing off on him.
I was just watching him moderate some housewives.
See, I didn't think that he had like platinum gray hair, but I guess he does. Yeah, I guess the associative property of Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, probably. He caught it on New Year's. This week we're joined by our special guest who is revisiting this film for the first time in quite some time, coming to us from Los Angeles, Chad Byrnes. As will be the case from time to time, some of our guests won't have their own mics because what normal person would? So you'll have to pardon some sacrificed audio quality this week, but Chad's fucking awesome. We'd much rather have him on the show than worry about whether his audio channel is going to be as crystal clear as some dipshit podcasters would be. Mm-hmm. Like the three of us.
No one likes to listen to me anyway.
Chad, why don't you tell the audience who didn't tune in last week a little bit about yourself?
Great. Jesus, where do I start? I lost my virginity. Just joking.
Lay back on the couch, Chad.
I still have the same couch. I hail from Los Angeles, California. I am a native. My dad is a screenwriter. He wrote a lot of Westerns, Big Valley, Bonanza, The Gambler with Kenny Rogers.
Sure did.
The first one or one of the other ones?
The number 1 and 2.
Nice.
I prefer 2.
Yeah.
And then I grew up in, Hollywood, basically, with a struggling screenwriter. Parents got divorced when I was 9, and that's when then a few years later I saw Firstborn, but we'll get there. And then I grew up here, lived in San Francisco for a while, went to college there, came back, and now I am a film critic for LA Weekly and Village Voice.
Nice.
So, as I discussed in the pre-interview with Chad last week, I'd actually completely forgotten that I've seen this movie. Until I was thinking more about it leading up to talking with Chad before the pre-interview, and then I was like, oh, fuck, I totally saw this movie where Teri Garr was Corey Haim's mom. Sean, had you seen this before? Had you heard of it?
Hadn't seen it, hadn't heard of it. Nothing.
Okay.
Complete blank slate.
Same. I think we were just like slightly too young to have been aware of it when it came out.
Yeah.
And then it fell into the abyss. This movie was completely forgotten by like everybody, I think. I had never heard of it.
I saw it on cable probably around 2004 or 5.
Nice.
I saw it somehow.
At what point, Josh, did you get reminded that you had seen it?
It was thinking about the story a little more.
Mhm.
I was like, oh shit, I have seen this.
Okay.
But I remembered fuck all about it. It was as close to a blank slate as you can be having seen a movie, because I've probably seen 4,000 movies since I saw this.
I've seen some images from this, right? Like stills of Sarah Jessica Parker and Corey Haim, both like from this seem very, very familiar.
Sure, when
to
Sarah
me,
Jessica
but
Parker
the movie,
walks
not
out
at
of
all.
the changing room.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. That's
Just in her underwear, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, bottoms.
And like I may have seen that, but like just kind of, had
And your SJP fan sites that you go to?
well, just maybe it got absorbed into one of like the myriad of other 80s movies that she had done.
Sure,
I didn't
right.
know
Yeah.
that it was a Firstborn scene.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into Chad's pre-interview. We asked you to summarize in your own words what you remember the plot of Firstborn being. I'm going to switch over to that real quick. Your answer for that question.
Newly divorced mother, played by Teri Garr, with 2 children, played by Christopher Collet, and a first-time Corey Haim. Introducing Corey Haim. And basically they live in I don't even know where this movie's supposed to take place from my memory. It looks
Sure.
like Seattle, but I think it was filmed in Canada. I cannot tell, but it's a basic suburb. So single mother, 2 teenage children. The mother is starting to get lonely and sad, as single mothers just might do. And then she finally meets a man, a mysterious gentleman who she falls in love with, played by Peter Weller, in a really amazing role. It's an amazing performance by Peter Weller.
And it's pre-RoboCop.
This is, way pre-RoboCop. He's mean as a snake. And it's almost half movie of the week story of a guy who moves in with a family, but it's also half horror film.
Yeah.
And shit ensues.
So, Chad, were there any subplots or moments that you had like totally forgotten?
Yeah. Kind of forgot the dynamic at high school and that horrendous English teacher. I forgot a lot of that.
He was a real dick.
hate that guy.
The Civil War general facial hair situation going on.
Yeah.
The reenactor. Yeah, he was something, and I didn't know that English teachers were such bastards. But this is the Reagan era, and English teachers were the enemy. So,
Yeah.
I forgot about the dynamic. With him and his friends, it actually got really interesting the second time around to see more of it. All I remembered is the home life, but the high school subplot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this ended up being set in New Jersey. Was that surprising?
Yes, that was definitely surprising. And as soon as I realized that, I was looking for accents everywhere, and it kind of threw me off. But yeah. I'm like, it looks like Seattle because it's always gray.
Sure. Yeah, it's just permanently overcast.
Yeah.
Unless they're like about to hump in a field with a bottle of wine. Was Peter Weller as mean as you'd remembered?
Oh yeah, he was great, and just sweaty. Just that sweat just had toxins and coke all over, and
the meat sweats.
Yeah. It almost felt like he brought some of his history to this role. I don't know. He understood the character.
I feel like he was method acting.
Yeah.
He actually was.
Apparently he was. Yeah, he threw Corey Haim across the room.
Mm-hmm.
I read about that. That was fantastic. Yeah. I just wish I was there for that one day.
Oh man,
we'll get to that.
Every once in a while, you're on set and something weird goes down, and you're just like, man. I don't know how
they
that
were
happened,
rolling,
but I don't think there were. That. PAs had to separate them.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did talk about Christopher Collet in the pre-interview. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in addition to this in the Manhattan Project, he was Angela's infamous final victim in Sleepaway Camp.
Absolutely. And I doing research after we talked, I was like, oh my God, how did I forget that?
I know, but he's not he's the love interest. So it's a weird, it's easy to kind of forget him because he's not Ricky. He's not always getting in fights. He's Ricky's buddy or whatever. And, it is a couple years before this because it's shot in 82, I think.
Yeah.
But you recalled Christopher Collet's performance in Firstborn being a strong one. Did this still feel strong to you this time around, or?
It did. No, it did. I thought it was effective. I always put movies in when I approach them into context,
Sure.
Of course. And I realize when this was filmed and things of that nature. And the way a performance might be in 84 would be probably different now, et cetera, et cetera. But for that time, it's pretty effective because there was a lot of just bad acting in those days. And it seemed like a more naturalistic performance for 84,
Oh, for sure. So I asked if you recalled when you'd first seen this. You remembered seeing this in the theaters and that it was one of the first PG-13 movies, a new rating in 1984, caused by Temple of Doom and Gremlins. Red Dawn's generally regarded as his first PG-13 movie, but there was actually...
Yeah.
I checked, and there was a weird 1984 Italian iteration of Henry IV that came out 2 weeks before Red Dawn.
Missed that one.
But this is definitely like in the first batch of like non-R, non-PG films. And it is potentially distressing to the adolescent set, which you touched on in the clip I'm about to play.
I saw it in the theaters with my mom in Palm Springs. We were visiting my grandfather and we were bored. So we went to the theater. We saw it. We were both like literally, from my memory of it, just completely shocked.
Yeah.
And it hit home a lot with me because my parents were divorced for only about 5 years at that point. And my mother was single and she dated men. And I have a brother who's 2 years older than me. So this movie was like a reflection of my life.
Sure.
Thank God no Peter Wellers ever came into my life. I was ready to kick some ass after that movie, I'll tell you that.
I bet. Yeah, next guy that comes in the house better have his shit straight.
Yeah, no cocaine in this home.
So do you think this made you more on edge when your mom would start seeing someone new?
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. This is like watching the Terminator and being scared of robots, It's like, yeah.
Only new guys would actually maybe come into your life.
It's funny because I did see this movie when I was 12, 11. I was Corey Haim's a little, pretty much his age. And I think I am his, if he were alive, I'd be his age. And so it was an incredible reflection. And my brother was Christopher Collet's basically age and kind of acted like Christopher Collet. He had a dirt bike. Those were really big in 84. And my brother just bought one. And it looked exactly like that one, a Kawasaki or whatever it was. And my brother had one. And I watched a lot of heavy metal videos on MTV and my brother made fun of me. All of that was in the movie. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? This is insane. And then, with the Peter Weller character and everything. Yeah. After that, I was on edge, man. I was at home. Like, who are you going to bring home this week, man? Not that my mom is bringing dudes home every week, but
right.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When one walks in the door, you just got the baseball bat. You're hitting your hand with it, right?
I'm like, eat shit, dick face. You're not my father,
Yeah. Do you think it scared her with Teri Garr as her analog at all?
Oh, she couldn't believe she took me to this movie. She was speechless. And she was, I think, really upset with herself. She couldn't walk to the car very well. I remember this. So we saw it in a mall in Palm Springs. And on the way to the car, she was just like shaking her head, like, why the hell did I, of all the freaking movies? Like, I need to remind you that I'm a single mother.
Did this serve as any type of cautionary tale for her dating moving forward? Do you think, she kept a higher standard after watching Peter Weller destroy their family?
Almost guarantee it. I almost guarantee it. And funny enough, my parents did get back together when I was 20. And I like to think that Firstborn had a lot to do with that. I'll go ahead and say that.
Nice.
So Joanne got kicked to the curb or whatever?
My dad had a lot of Joannes.
Okay.
We didn't get much of Joanne. That restaurant scene reminded me so much of Major League when Tom Berenger spots Rene Russo, that kind of lofted second floor. Mm-hmm. But did anybody notice the cameo in the back there?
Yeah.
That was weird.
What the fuck? I'm only 85% it was him, but that was
him.
Richard Kind over her left shoulder.
Richard Kind is in the restaurant.
He's had a cameo at a restaurant I've eaten at before. I saw him get burgers once.
It was so weird, and you can tell he is.
I
So
happened
Chad,
to pause it on it, and it was shocking to me.
I missed it.
I went back. I rewinded. So he is placed in the table behind their dad and Joanne.
Yeah, his head is right over Joanne's shoulder.
Right in the middle. And he's the only one like really doing any backting, or background acting.
Yeah, he's the only one with face to the camera.
Yeah.
And Josh, it's 100%. It's got to be him.
Well, he got $100 that day.
I dug into it a little bit just because I was like, okay, would he have been in the tri-state area? And I'm not sure he was. That's the only reason I'm not. He's born in Trenton, but he went to Northwestern and then was in Second City in Chicago.
I don't know. I feel like he did stand-up.
And he's in Nothing in Common, which is in 1987.
But if he's a stand-up, he'd be in New York.
Yeah, but didn't he become friends with Larry David and Jerry back in the New York stand-up days? Like, I think
it might have been L.A. because I mean he's in.
Maybe it was L.A. I don't know about that scene,
but I'm almost certain it's him.
I couldn't
confirm that he was in the tri-state area at the time, and it's like kind of at the very beginning of his credits. So I feel
like this has kind of largely been scrubbed from the web.
Josh, did you figure out what the extra rate was in 1984?
Did
he get like $60 or something?
Probably $62.
Yeah.
Adam, did you also catch Ned Eisenberg?
I saw that he was in there, but I didn't see
They
him.
passed by when Jake has just gotten his learner's permit.
That
they
I
passed
saw.
by each other in the parking lot.
Yeah, nice.
What's so weird about that is I looked this movie up on Letterboxd, and it's that frame of those four guys that they use for Firstborn.
Weird.
And I was going into this movie with that
thinking
being
they were
the
going to
only
be street toughs.
image.
And,
the only image I had. What's so weird is that they focus on those street toughs before they swipe or before they cross Garr and Collet and Haim, and then the camera goes with them. So you're like, okay, was something cut? Is this going to be bullies?
well, because they had to set up that little like joke that comes right after it.
Yes, but boy, what a red herring, especially to use that image.
Yeah.
Yeah, it threw me off. I thought, is this turning into the Warriors? What the hell is going on here? But yeah, I remember that.
Fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, that'd have been awesome.
We needed to do a little social commentary at that point, apparently.
Yeah.
He needed to join a dirt bike gang. That would have put this in the right direction.
Oh, for sure. Now, was the fact that this was so applicable to your situation growing up why you remember the circumstances that you like first saw it?
Yes, very much so.
You're not some sicko like me and Sean who just like, I saw Human Nature with Sean at some bullshit St. Paul theater back in 2000. Are you not that person?
No, and I wasn't old enough to be ironic. I was just like, this is supposed to be cool. I remember my friends at school said it was cool. And so I had no idea what I was going into. I was a sucker for anything of a coming of age story.
Sure.
Anything I could relate to at that age, at 12, 13, including the Goonies, whatever. But this was not the Goonies. And it burned in my brain. There's no doubt. And I remember I worked in a video store years later and I rented it again. And and I still found it really actually pretty damn good. Yeah, it burned because of my family situation.
Yeah.
And my mom never did find the one, but she was dating and I had some awkward, encounters with some of these dudes. Nothing that really I remember, but after that movie, I do remember like some encounters where I was more paranoid of them. I'm like, is the band going to start playing?
Right. Are they going to move a fucking loud ass pinball machine into the living room?
Dude.
Is the whole living room going to turn red?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, again, this is probably a question for your brother too, but like outside of the movie, did you really feel kind of protective of your mom? Like once you guys were living together and she didn't have a husband there?
Big time. Yeah. And there was certain small moments in the movie I really related to, like when they see their father, because I would only see my father on the weekends or every other weekend. And he'd be like, is your mom dating? That did happen. And I remember there was one moment in the movie where Corey Haim's like, yeah, maybe someone new, like being kind of a little bitchy about it. Like, yeah, maybe she's seen someone new. Take that. And I would do that once in a while and be like, yeah, mom's out and about, even though my mom was just chilling most of the time.
Sure.
Did you wear a jacket and tie every time you saw your dad?
Was your mom just Garn at home in sweats?
After getting all dolled up and hoping that she was going to go to dinner.
I mean, she looked pretty dolled up. I mean, she looked like $1 million bucks prior to that. That was
there's a
that was
lot
cool.
of differences. A lot of differences between Teri Garr and my mom. Most notably, that my mom would never even expect to hang out with my father and us. If
A
we
nice
were going
dinner in the city.
She'd be like, "Have fun later."
On a pickup, yeah.
Yeah, no. And my dad being a screenwriter in the 80s, let's just say he was quite single.
Yeah.
And the experience I had with my dad when I saw Boogie Nights in the theater with him was the same experience I had with my mom seeing Firstborn. It was one of recognition and horror.
Well, which character did you identify with from that one?
Probably the John C. Reilly character.
Right on.
Yeah.
Overcoming my insecurities. Yeah.
Right. I fucking love him so much in that movie.
Action star. Parkouring off rooftops.
So I asked you what stuck out most from watching this as a kid.
Really, honestly, Corey Haim. I'd never seen him before. And honestly, when I saw his star rise, it did not shock me. Because as everyone talked about, whatever his big first movies, I think Lucas would be the first movie that people really discussed him. I already knew who he was because of Firstborn. And I already knew he was an absolute natural talent. And he was so freaking good in this movie and so believable. And I haven't seen Firstborn in a while, but the performances in this movie outshine some of the script material that is a little problematic. The performances were great. That's what I took away, is because I was his age in that film. So it was kind of like watching myself and how I would react.
Yeah, he was your analog.
Yes, he was my analog, exactly. Yeah. And that's the main thing I took away.
Okay.
I was really watching him because I am not firstborn in my family.
Because he's your proxy.
He's my proxy. And my brother would be the one who would be, the Christopher Collet character. And the thing I do like about the movie I took away also is I didn't even know what a firstborn was when I saw it necessarily. I didn't even conceptually. I'd never looked at my brother as a first anything or a second anything. And walking away, I always looked at him a little differently from then on. Saying, "Oh shit, you're the badass, huh? You're the firstborn. You're gonna take care of this shit."
I'm just fucking Corey Haim in this.
Yeah, I'm just the punk ass kid who just puts you down and makes fun of you, right? So,
yeah. So, did Corey Haim still pop for you?
Yeah, totally. Again, he made me a little more nervous revisiting it this time. I'm like, the kid is just edgy. I mean, and he kind of made me sick too, because he's always like drinking out of the milk and handing it to his brother. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? I mean, I didn't, that part I was like, get some manners, dude. But, other than that, performance wise, for a first time, in a major film, it's pretty damn natural,
Yeah.
And so,
It's really good.
I thought it was really powerful, actually, because there was scenes with him, particularly, and I'm sure we'll get there, but when he yells at Peter Weller, he's like, "Eat shit, dick face, you're not my father." Just that delivery was so cool.
Yeah.
And,
I know it's scripted, but he barely makes it to that door.
Yeah.
Weller with the belt move. I don't know. I mean, there is that sort of like B story with Corey Haim, which is like really strange for a minor younger brother character to also have this ancillary, like he gets into fights, he fucking kills birds.
Yeah.
That was
By
completely
accident.
unexpected. Yeah, by accident, because I was aiming at it.
he just wanted to see what happened.
Yeah, I mean, accidents when he's aiming at his brother and he hits the bird or something. Not when you're aiming. Yeah. So it was weird that didn't come back. I didn't know how they were going to like channel that, his sort of sadistic, masochistic tendencies. But he does like rankle his brother when he knows he's going to be slammed up against a wall for it. He gives his bigger brother wet willies. I mean, like, he pushes the envelope. And certainly in that scene with Weller, like, holy shit.
You'll poke the bear.
Weller
He's
was
fearless.
going, and he got thrown a fucking mile. Like that was like one of those things that you hit on like on a D-Day set, right? where it just launches you.
I
I
hope
was
they put
like-
a mattress in the
They
wall.
wire.
No,
Yeah.
like I hope that they got some kind of Fernie going, or they.
There's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you know?
Oh, totally!
what a-
Yeah, he's bouncing off the treetops, Adam.
Yeah, that was not a stunt child by any means.
No, they really. Yeah,
There were
they-
multiple times, like when they're on the bike leaving the school and it's fucking wet pavement.
Yeah, it's wet pavement, and they're both on their riding. Yeah.
They are both on that bike, or at
That's-
least,
Yeah.
or they have another stunt kid, but like, that was
Yeah.
wildly unsafe.
Checking data production on this one. It is before Twilight Zone? Question mark.
Yeah.
Like we put those kids into some serious situations. And right after each hit Dickface, Collet gets thrown around
Yep.
hard.
Oh, yeah.
I think he hits like 3 walls before he gets like the iron cocked fist of anger
Mhm.
in front of him.
Yeah. When he first gets hit in the face really badly by Weller, it's like a slap. It's like this weird, it's like, and whoever did the sound design on this was good, because it wasn't one of those 80s punches that sounds like a pow. It was like, and he goes down hard.
And Weller is probably not at his most precise in terms of pulling punches, in terms of like measuring distance, in terms of pulling off a theatrical nap.
Yeah.
I'm guessing these boys, and maybe even Teri, have a couple ice pack days.
Yeah. He definitely Buckaroo Banzai the shit out of these kids.
And Teri. Like, it became the slap Olympics there in that final 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, and there is one really disturbing scene. Not to go ahead, but when this is one scene I completely forgot about, and it actually affected me more this time because I didn't remember it. Is when Christopher Collet goes to sleep one night and he hears Weller and Garr getting in an argument in the other room, and he's saying some gnarly shit. He's like, "You stupid bitch," and we hear this smacking, and I didn't remember any of that. I was like,
After
damn.
she stuck up for Jake. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did this take you back to that view of the Firstborn that you had of your brother as the badass, or is that the rear view now? Okay, no, you did? Okay. All right.
Nice.
Yeah, because my brother he was tougher than me.
Okay.
And he was the quieter one. He took things in, but if he had to do something, he definitely would. So they had some of that with Christopher Collet.
Yeah.
He's a little more vocal than my brother would be, but at the same time, my brother had that kind of quiet John Wayne-ish quality that if don't fuck with my family kind of thing. So yeah.
Now, did you still associate most here with Corey Haim's character, not the Firstborn, or has that changed with time? Like now, are you more with the protagonist?
I am and I'm not. There's things that the protagonists are doing where I'm like, he's not giving Peter Weller's character a lot of room to develop with him as a friend.
Sure.
He's just like, you're a dick, and that's kind of it. He gives this much room and then is like, I don't like you.
It felt like as soon as he changed get rich quick schemes, Colette's out of there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He saw the twinkle in his eyes when he wasn't into home security anymore.
I mean,
I want Ray back.
He had such a hard on for home security. He was just devastated and betrayed when he wanted to open up a restaurant.
He's like, I believed in you as a security man. What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, he just knows the failure rate of restaurants.
Seriously, it's a bad plan.
He knows it's a bad turn. Yeah, they have bad turnaround. But yeah, what I noticed more was just, and I appreciated about the movie is that a lot of movies, especially in those days, would make it look like the kids are being understanding and then they're victimized. It's actually pretty honest about how kids work off of instinct.
Sure.
More than what they see and what they hear. And that's
they're
when
a little more predatorial.
Yeah, they go off instinct. Like, I don't like this guy. I don't care that he got me a fight. I don't like him.
So, did you find yourself putting yourself in Sam's shoes at all?
This time, a little bit. Yeah, as an adult, I was because I'm well over Weller's age in this film, which is crazy.
We all are.
Exactly, and I'm sure we haven't moved in with any single ladies lately and done cocaine, but I plan to.
Speak for yourself, pal.
Sean?
Well, one half of that is true, but we won't.
But yeah, I did because I'm an adult. He's an adult, and you almost have to think to yourself, what would I do? And I was thinking this second time around, what would I do if I was in I met a girl and she had 2 teenage kids. So I did put myself in there. And I actually felt for him a couple times because he was kind of like, hey, you like the oldies? I like the oldies. He was trying to reach out a couple times.
He's like, no, fuck you. You're not my dad.
He definitely played the cool stepdad for that like opening introduction with he did everything well, right?
He tried too hard.
But
you did call him a tryhard, basically.
Yeah.
I thought he was doing like a pretty good job considering the position that he was in. And then like everything evil in the 80s, it was kind of the devil of cocaine.
I don't know. He was a little sweaty.
I guess the only thing I would have changed if I were Peter Weller is if I met my girlfriend's son and he asked me what I did for a living, I wouldn't go on a rant about how my coworkers are trying to fuck me. That's probably where I would have pulled back a little bit.
I also might try not sauntering out of their mom's bedroom first thing in the morning as the first time I meet them.
Just been ravaged by Garr.
I might try like a more planned meeting.
Sure, you could still smell the Garr in his dick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that was some tousled hair, man. I mean, that is not bedhead.
No.
Hangovers are a bitch, and then he's got to drink herbal tea when he's hungover. That's got to be terrible.
He just wants a can of Sanka, man. He just have a can of Sanka. It's 1984.
Seriously.
He's like, kid, give me a cup of coffee, and then I'll explain the situation, but I only get herbal tea.
Did mom quitting coffee drive her into the arms of big cocaine? Is that the moral of this? Yeah.
I think it has to be, right?
Stick with coffee.
Well, there's also that indication that things are not going well when it's like Teri Garr smoking 2 packs in 10 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, that whole scene is like a backroom poker layer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a great scene where Christopher Collet is trying to talk to her, trying to really talk to her, and she grabs a pack of Marlboro Reds and it's empty. So she goes to above the fireplace mantle and she picks a whole full pack of Marlboro Reds and damn.
Yeah.
But,
Was she smoking at all earlier in the film?
No.
I don't remember.
I think it came on, yeah.
It was a nice
when
touch.
she became bad mom. That's when
bad
she started
mom
smoking.
equals smoking, as everyone knows.
That's what happens.
You can't be a good person if you smoke.
Cocaine will drive you into the arms of Marlboro Reds. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, cocaine is really a gateway drug for Marlboros.
And making
Which one can you show
apparently.
on TV now? I don't think you can show Marbs. I think you can only show people snorting coke on
Seriously.
TV.
If you do enough cocaine, you'll make cookies every day of your life.
I mean, there
At
are
least
worse,
she-
there
at
are
least she
worse
was productive,
outcomes,
right? Yeah. They did a lot of little touches with the house as a third child, right? How well the house is doing.
Yeah, because she's having guys come in and wax the floors and do all that shit right before the dad is going to visit.
Right. And it was immaculate, right?
Yep.
And then we see the house fall into this disrepair, as so does Garr. There is that really good line, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit about.
There's no jumping ahead.
Well,
whatever
this
you
is
want.
this is where Colette. I think it was something that Chad said, talking about Jake and Garr and how they kind of saw their lives prior to Sam. There's that great line when Jake's like, "Hey, everything was fine. Yes, it was tough, not having dad there, but this kid is wall to wall with buddies.
Sure.
He's got an awesome girlfriend.
She's buying fuckloads of snacks for him and his friends.
She's got, I mean, they're bedding down in the pastures of
Seriously.
New Jersey.
For some reason, RDJ, the coolest kid at any school ever, is friends with him.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand.
I mean, even pre-J, right?
Yeah.
He already had that kind of cool, ironic tick happen.
Dude, yeah.
It was already there.
His
glasses always matched his outfit every time we see him.
We were seeing the early chrysalis stage of peak RDJ there. Just his mannerisms and how natural he was. And...
You mean less than zero?
Yeah.
I feel like his character in this movie went to college to back to school.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like it's the same dude from Firstborn, graduated, went straight to back to school and hung out with what's his face?
Dangerfield.
Dangerfield.
And
sorry. And shit.
Yeah, man.
Fucking what's his, no, what's his fuck from
Christine?
Brian Gordon.
And he became a director.
Yeah.
Brian Gordon.
One of those forgettable faces. The lead. the lead, right?
The lead,
of the...
yeah, he was in Dressed to Kill.
He's the nerd in Legend of Billie Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that Brian Gordon?
But yeah, anyway, to
Something
get back to that
Gordon.
point of, like, he talks about his life being fine, and Teri Garr saying, for you. It was fine for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I did this job of kind of,
Keith Gordon.
Keith Gordon.
Gordon.
There it is. Yeah. I really wish that wasn't a non sequitur, or that wasn't a sequitur, that you just have to Tourette's Keith Gordon's name every now and again.
I do, actually.
But yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of those little moments that this movie shows that it was written by somebody who's gone through this, or been very, very close to it. There's just too many little hallmarks of a single parent family, childhood divorce, dad's still kind of in the picture. They do a lot of things really, really well in kind of building this world.
Now, do you think Ron Koslow was the Peter Weller character? Or do you think he was?
I don't think he would do that. Or maybe he was dad. Maybe he was Gar. I don't know.
Well, Ron Koslow also wrote a great movie called The Lifeguard, Lifeguard with Sam Elliott.
Yeah,
it's the first movie he wrote. I have a feeling that the writer, who I believe that if you watch Lifeguard, it feels like such a personal film, that he relates to men who are a little misguided, who don't have a place in greater society. So I do feel like the screenplay, whether, they changed it or not, did have some empathy for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
It didn't give him much of a backstory at all, but the empathy was, he tried. This could have been a Friday the 13th. They could have just been a monster, right at the start. And it didn't. So
yeah, it's definitely more nuanced. I mean,
I think until the end. Right?
Well,
I
sure.
think until...
But that's the kid stole like half a key of Coke. Like, what are you going to do?
Well, you have to wonder how much the studio wanted it to be more of an action flick rather than being like a quiet, divorced children flick.
I have a feeling they changed the end.
Yeah.
I think they put pressure on the end. It just feels like a different film. Yeah.
Because even when he gets the cocaine, he still cannot just take his 10 grand worth of Coke and get the hell out. He has to turn into... Yeah, I mean, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he was going to kill that kid.
Until we see the cocaine, if you told me that this was a pre-make of The Squid and the Whale, I would totally believe you, just without the foppish dad. Like, it's the same movie. And Jesse Eisenberg and Christopher Collet, look almost exactly alike. But yeah, it's definitely more of we have to give this an edge rather than just my parents are divorced and weird.
Yeah, it feels like it got studio pressure, for sure. Because the end is so ridiculous. And, the last scenes, I mean, they're effectively, because he's a really good director, they're effectively directed, but I'm like, is this the same screenplay? He's gonna
jumps the shark,
and bring this kid right now. I mean,
Yeah, I mean the chase scene through the train yard. I mean, obviously we got to see some more cool dirt biking, but we already had the kind of I hate my life and I'm an angry teenager montage with that dirt bike. Like, I don't know if we needed to kind of tack on a chase scene there just to show it off a little bit more.
But it had to pay off. I mean, it's Chekhov's dirt bike, right?
Well, yeah.
I actually have that joke. I have Chekhov's dirt bike in my notes.
Nice.
Well, Kawasaki probably had a deal. They wanted a little bit more screen
It was
time.
I think it was Honda.
It was a Honda, BT Dubs. There's a lot of product placement in this film.
There is so much Pepsi. So much Pepsi is drunk.
Oh, I was thinking of the Kingsford. Like a big charcoal totally funded this,
And the mesquite, I'll tell you this. Like, I don't know if we saw it. I don't know if it was invented. But Teri Garr is such a cool mom at the beginning that you know that she had Sunny D in that fridge.
Not purple stuff.
Did Sunny D exist in 1984? Did it
She
exist?
was actually the first household to have Sunny D.
That was, I knew.
Corey Haim was
got it
taking
from
one
the space
sip of it and giving it to us, though.
See, I didn't know if
back.
it was Teri Garr Firstborn mom or Teri Garr Mr. Mom, but I knew that one of those households was probably the first Sunny D.
Yeah.
And that's another impression I had with the film, too, because I was a big Mr. Mom fan when I was a kid, and I watched it constantly on cable. Constantly on cable.
Oh, I've seen that movie like 30 times.
Exactly. So to watch her in this, I was like, what the hell happened to Teri Garr, that mother? It was like the dark side of Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
I really feel like, I wasn't in the room, but I mean, Teri Garr is the biggest name in this thing. This is a vehicle for her.
This is a year removed from her Academy Award nomination.
Yeah, but it also is like a departure, I think, for a lot of the stuff that she's associated with.
Oh, big time.
But it's weird because she was like the biggest star at the time, and yet I feel like she has absolutely no agency in this movie.
None.
Like, she's the person who has the least control over what's going on and makes the least decisions.
But I think it's still actually an interesting character, especially like if you're her and you're always cast as the sort of like stable good mom, or whatever the fuck her role in Tootsie was. I can't even remember. I haven't seen that in forever. But
she was the fun friend / girlfriend.
So if you're always the Teri Garr for whatever, and so if you're the Teri Garr actress and you're coming off an Academy Award nomination, I think you do something with especially with a director who he's worked with Glenda Jackson. He's worked with.
He did Coal Miner's Daughter.
He did Coal Miner's Daughter, which Sissy Spacek won a fucking Oscar for.
Yeah.
I think if you're Garr, you take that chance that, okay, this is the thing that hits.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting part for her. She doesn't have agency, but it's still like there's a lot more going on here than there is in, say, Mr. Mom for her character.
That's arguable, but we can agree to disagree.
I mean, I get the no agency thing too, and I remember seeing the movie with my mom and her sighing and groaning, audibly, like, "Oh, this woman, good God,"
Seriously.
But at the same time, my mom wasn't in the grips of coke,
right?
And I think just a woman who's so lonely and probably has one glass of wine every other night and just watches over her children, lives such this contained life, and it's suddenly at that time. Partying was not like partying now. It was partying. And then and when they partied in 84, it was still like 79. They were really getting into it. And, it had Reaganomics all over this film too. Like this is a political undertone to the whole thing, because this was a big thing in the 80s, the anti-drug films, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
But it did it in a way that I didn't find stupid or offensive.
Mm-hmm.
It made me roll my eyes this much, but not to the point where I'm like, it couldn't happen. It can't happen.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a problem with her character until a little later in the film when Christopher Collet really does try to talk to her and she's just not there. That's the part where I'm like, she doesn't have agency.
Does that happen?
Yeah. She's lost a character. She has no characteristics in the latter part of the film. Mm-hmm. She is just a victim.
Well, there's the moment, though, where it's the sort of scene that Colette and she have before that scene. The scene that we were talking about before, where she's like, but I wasn't happy. And I do think that there's a kind of a truthful note being hit there that you wouldn't have seen in a movie like this at all.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. And they had an interesting relationship. As mother and son, it's a very like adult relationship in some ways. It's very honest and real, because this movie could easily be accused of being a TV movie, which were really popular at the time, and a lot of the TV movies felt like this. They didn't look like this because this movie has actually a really interesting look, but it felt like it at times. But then it took it up one more notch of intellectuality in some ways, because she does have layers.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene when she's talking to her friend too, and her friend's like, "You just met this dude.
Yeah, slow your roll.
Be careful." And she's like, "I'm freaking miserable." And she said an interesting thing in that scene. She goes, "He needs me, and I want that right now."
Sure.
So it wasn't another dynamic where I need him. Yeah. She actually met someone who needs her.
Right.
And it was
because
with
he
the
needs
father
10 grand
dynamic.
to buy
She always needed the father. She was always needy for their father, but she finally met a guy who actually needed her. Yeah. And that made her feel good. So,
should we talk about the coke? Because I think the whole scheme.
There's a lot of it.
But there's not really that much. Like,
there's a lot.
It's like four bags. It's maybe half a key. It feels like he's just trying to sell it wholesale to somebody else. In which case, where is he making the real money?
Yeah, I guess you're
like the whole point is that you cut it up and you're selling it in in a fucking gram here, gram there.
Yeah,
you're selling it and marking it up because you're you're chopping it up. Like,
and you mark it up extra.
This scheme
'cause
doesn't
you're
make any sense to me. You're just going to get what? Maybe you bought it for 10 and you're going to get 12 back? Like, you're
and they're going to use that money to buy a restaurant, by the way.
Yeah. Like,
you're doing
couldn't you have
weeds,
just used
but
the
in
money
New
that you had in
Jersey,
savings to buy a restaurant? I don't know where you're actually making money in this whole scheme.
Yeah, because you can't really use it as collateral against a loan like you could with actual money.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes to New York to pick it up, right?
Yeah.
You need two really hard-looking mulleted guys to show up to buy those 5 bags.
I mean, one of those dudes was basically Kurgan from Highlander, dude. Like,
yeah,
he
was
scared the
Clancy
shit
Brown.
out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are some scary dudes to have in your place when you're a teenager.
Yeah, I thought one of them looked like, I forgot his name, but the dude from Maniac, Joe Spinell. It's like when the kid comes home and you run into Joe Spinell in your living room.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, one of them looked like a really rough Stephen Bauer.
Stephen Bauer after like a week of hookers.
I'm not talking like sexy long hair Stephen Bauer from Scarface or
No.
Running Scared. I'm talking like this guy's been 2 days stuck at like a Reno bus station.
You're talking Stephen Bauer and like Ray Donovan.
That's what I was going to say. He
Oh,
looks like
yeah.
a dude, a little puffier.
Yeah, old and puffier, yeah. Because he seemed like you wouldn't fuck with him, but he didn't. It's not like he was Reacher or something, you know? He's not some really cut dude. He's just a big guy who would like fuck you up.
He's been in a fight a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not showing up like Tom Noonan, just staring through your soul. Okay, so when you said, are we going to talk about, and you had a pregnant pause there, I did not think you were going to go cocaine. I thought you were going to go into the sort of
The Oedipal.
The Oedipal stuff, yeah.
It was very weird.
Yeah, I don't know, Chad, did any of that register to you then at the
Not
video
then.
store or now?
Well, when she was like, "You're so handsome," I mean, it's innocent.
There's more than that.
There's way more than that.
Adam,
Like when
there's
he
more
says
than that.
you look nice when she's dolled up and he's like eyeing her up, like that was
Talking to her when she's in her bra, that seems
that's
right.
offering the free mammogram. There was
If
just
my mom, if I could see my mom through a door in her bra, and I think
Hightail it.
Run away. Yeah.
but I wouldn't go in.
no.
I wouldn't be like, "Hey, mom." You know, I'd be like, "All right."
Okay, so Chad, question. So none of that really registered back in '84. This rewatch, though, were there things in the filmmaking style and their performance where you're like, is he the firstborn, but now the replacement dad? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it felt that way. But I do think there's some truth in that. You know, I do think that when there's a divorce, the firstborn, not in an Oedipal way, but just in a
codependent way.
In a codependent
protective way, maybe.
Yeah, and trying to find some agency within himself says, okay, I have to take over right now.
Step up. Yeah.
I got to step up. But yeah, there were scenes where, she's like, you look so handsome. And then he's, especially the scene when she's talking to him in her bra and he's just following her around in her room. She's in her bra.
She's way coked up.
But he's already found the blow at that point, right? He found her bag of weed in her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one scene too that just blocking wise, I was like, I don't know if any teenager boy is going to like squirm into the couch space that she is allowing there for him to sit down.
Yeah, the scene where she's on the couch and he sits down behind her, kind of.
Josh, there was not enough cushion.
No.
Yeah.
You take another seat in the living room, my man.
Yeah, I noticed some of that stuff. I definitely
That was
did.
probably on location. They needed that space for the camera, man.
I would guess the interiors were actually Kaufman Astoria.
Yeah. That's right across the street from where some of my friends live.
Is it still there? I thought that was the one that...
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where Sesame Street shot. It's basically only Sesame Street now.
Okay, so when we asked about the expectations you had going back into Firstborn this time, you thought you'd be looking at things differently?
Now that I'm actually watching films in a different way than I was a kid, especially for work, the first thing I try to, not to be pretentious, but it's just the truth. When I'm going to write a piece, for example, I approach it with craft.
Sure.
Instead of just pure emotion, right? So I'm really interested in seeing, I think it's Michael Apted.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and he's interesting because he made a very popular documentary series in England that went on forever.
It's still going. 2019, they did it again.
It's incredible. And I watched them not that long ago, and they're incredibly beautifully crafted.
Yeah.
So I'm going into this to look at the craft and see if there's any documentary feel to this film at all. He's just a natural documentarian and a real talent. So I want to see how he approached not only a fictional story, but a fictional family story that's so intimate. I want to see if there's a documentary feel to any of this. And the thing is, when I thought of him and I saw how visceral the film was when I was a kid, is there is a bit of documentary feel to this film because everything feels so damn intense and real and in the now.
Yeah.
So that is, I'm really looking forward to approaching it to see the craft of which it was made.
Did Apted's direction make you think any differently about the film this time?
Yeah, for sure. Looking back on this film before I watched it again with you guys is basically like me looking back at The Karate Kid, a movie I saw in the theaters and, you relate to and blah, 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 blah. The music and, because I liked the music in this film too. Like they played Talk Talk and these were bands I was listening to at the time. Yeah. And that opening song, that was a popular fucking song on the radio.
They had a great soundtrack to this, but that score was so Lifetime.
So Lifetime. That score killed me. It
takes so much out of this movie.
It really does. The score was shit. The songs were good, which is weird because they chose great songs. But again, going back to what I think the studio did have some sway over this film because it felt like a studio film that Michael Apted was trying to break out of at times. And where he did break out was definitely the craft. And I like what I was saying to you in the pre-interview. I did see some of that documentary feel because you have to remember most of the films in those days were so stilted and all the scenes were so completely set up. This scene is going to be about this. This scene is going to be about this. And it's always moving the story forward. And it didn't feel like that this time. No. There were sometimes the scenes would be there just to be there. They weren't moving the story forward. And they took a long time to establish the characters, but they established it in a very naturalistic way. So when Peter Weller did enter the dynamic, you felt the intrusion. So that's the part I really did respect because most movies these days, they rush to whatever you got to
hit that. You got to hit that moment at minute 12. If you don't hit it at minute 12, everyone's going to run.
Exactly. So I liked the establishing, and I noticed some shots where he just kept the camera still.
Yep.
And he didn't bring attention to himself. He had a Sidney Lumet feel for it, where it's kind of like let the story tell itself. And there's a talent there that's deceptive. And there's definite scenes where it would be in the kitchen. The kitchen felt like the heart of this home, where everything went down. And the way he placed the camera in the kitchen at times, you would see Teri Garr smoking a cigarette at that table in the back. Or when Colette would enter the kitchen, the camera would be almost in a corner. And so he is trying to capture almost a documentary, like just he's a part of the home. Instead of following him into or having, these primary shots of Colette following him through the house, he kept the cameras in corners and things of that nature. So I liked the craft. Yeah, it was good. And again, all until the third act.
Sure. Yeah. I had a moment very early on when all of Colette and his friends come into the house through the sliding glass door. It felt like for a moment I was kind of watching one of those like room full of people Altman scenes where everyone's talking.
Yeah.
There's no like one conversation going on. Like, you got two friends shit talking each other here. You got like 4 or 5 different conversations going on in the room. And that did feel like it was kind of real life documentary sort of thing.
It did. And the way that people were delivering their lines is exactly the way a family would deliver their lines. The camera didn't switch over and cut over to this camera and like a Lifetime movie where we're paying attention to this person saying. He kept the camera in the back. He let people deliver their lines. So you did feel like you were a part of that dynamic.
Yeah, and it's not as much like, it's not the master coverage, like back and forth.
There's a lot of that in a movie that Chad mentioned already, in Goonies, where the kids are just kind of coming in and Donner is just letting them talk and ramble on to whoever they're next to. We get bits and pieces of it, but we never really kind of get any cohesion. But that's teenage kids. That's teenage boys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Were there any parts you thought came off as clumsier or clunkier than you had remembered?
His relationship with Sarah Jessica Parker was a little bit thin, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's not about them. It didn't bother me, but the scene where they're drinking wine in there's a bear behind you. I mean, is that how they relate? Is that the depths of their romance? There was just scenes where I'm just like, that was clunky. But other than that, besides that, and we're not even going to go there, but besides that, I was surprised how this movie was still effective. Again, I am coming from a place who is these guys' age, did see it in 84. You know, when you see a movie at that age, and when I see The Karate Kid, it still affects me the same way it did when I saw it when I was a kid.
You don't think Daniel's an asshole?
Not at all. And I'm actually not a part of that team at all. And I think it's cute that people say that, and it makes me laugh. But you know, but you know, it does. It's funny, but I've never agreed with it. I'm like, come on, man, where are you getting this shit? Because he picked up the dude's radio, he deserves to get his ass beat every night. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, but bullying was like pretty bad in the fucking 80s. It was not like these days where it's super hyper conscious. Like if you push someone at school, it's like, hey, bullying me. You know, there was no word for it, but people were getting their asses beat badly.
Well, now it's all psychological bullying online that you can't escape. You know, it's 24 hours a day now. So it's a weird, different thing. Yeah.
Or you yell at somebody about a video game and call the SWAT team on them. You know, that's the other thing you can do.
Yeah, that's fun.
I'm also from the Valley, and those guys in The Karate Kid, we had a lot of those guys in Encino. Man. So when I saw Karate Kid, that was freaking reality to me. That wasn't. They would beat some Reseda kid's ass every day.
Sure.
And I don't think that Reseda kid ever asked for it.
Man, fuck Cobra Kai.
Yeah, fuck them. They're in Encino. They got mansions. You know, they're not victims.
Yeah. So was Daniel LaRusso the kid that Corey Haim was beating up early on most of the movie? Did we see that kid? He just like
that's
why they left New Jersey and moved to the Garden of Eden. Yeah.
And that's another thing that I found kind of funny is that Corey Haim, this wispy little shit, is the one who's like, I just wish there was a scene on the school ground with him beating ass.
He's like a year from being Luca Plakia.
Like no one, the look that he gives his brother sitting in the principal's office is the look of a child who has never chosen violence.
No,
truly. He's like,
but it is kind of funny because we never see it on screen, so we just have to imagine it, right? And it is there.
Well, I mean, he does take a baseball bat to Peter Weller's back.
Okay. So my conspiracy is that there was no kid that he's beating up; that these are just animals that he has found and has killed. And it's their blood on his face and on his clothes.
So it's like some serial killer shit that's going on.
And he is working his way up
to being Jeffrey Dahmer.
No, to beat Peter Weller.
Oh, okay.
You mistakenly hit a crow with a slingshot one day. The next day, you're eating some poor kid in Minneapolis. Okay,
right? the defense of Adams. The defense of Adams'
it's the same
accidental slingshot is getting a little suspicious for me. How many lizards down there have you killed yet?
So you were also looking forward to seeing a young and hungry Peter Weller. I'm assuming your desires to see him really get to work were sated?
Yeah, but they were actually more sated in the scenes with dialogue instead of the violence. The violence is besides the point in this movie, and that's the problem with it. It acts like it's working up to that, but when it hits, it kills all the tension. Mm-hmm. The scene in particular that is my favorite scene in the whole movie is when finally Jake breaks and he can't take it anymore, and they're talking about the restaurant, and Peter Weller's like, oh, this fucking steak, someone got a chainsaw for this steak, and then they're talking about the restaurant, and Jake can't take it anymore, and he's like, how are you going to sell this thing? What if the real estate stays soft, and and when Peter Weller switches on that scene, because that's the scene where he switches, he stops being Mr. Nice Guy, and the look he gives him when the kid one-ups him, and he's like, hip ain't hip anymore. Mm-hmm. And when Peter Weller just glares at him, man, I felt it. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, and something that I want to talk about. And again, like, this is, bank account aside, I'm sure that there's an argument to the contrary, but I think RoboCop really fucked up Peter Weller's career.
Dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is a fucking force. Mm-hmm. And he's theater trained.
Buckaroo Banzai came out this year, right?
Yeah, it was actually right behind it at the year-end box office. This was 108 and Buckaroo Banzai was 109.
Buckaroo Banzai is awesome.
Buckaroo Banzai is awesome. I love that movie.
Yeah, and completely different characters between those two in the same year that he's been able to pull off.
Shakedown is
Shakedown, man.
fucking awesome.
No, he's pulling off a wide range of acting performances here in the 80s. And then RoboCop, with the exception of the kind of the Murphy shit in the beginning, like he's largely hidden. He's largely...
He's a robot.
He's a robot. And
It
RoboCop
completely
2 does
fucked up his
not
career.
get better. But
It
holy shit,
completely
this
screwed up
guy
his career.
is like I don't know. I mean,
He's a force.
He is a force. And the physical
he's
imposing of him and the...
scary.
As
I
we
mean-
found out, maybe the method acting going on in this movie.
Well, if you see a movie before this that was filmed, I think 2 years before this, called Shoot the Moon, which is also a great movie about divorce, and he basically plays the same damn character, which is Diane Keaton is a newly divorced woman from Albert Finney, and she meets the guy who's building her tennis court, and they have a relationship. That's Peter Weller, and he is also kind of cool in it. Like this movie at first, kind of cool, kind of a badass, but then he does break at one point too. And I saw that movie in '82 on cable, and I was like, who the hell is that guy? He scares the shit out of me, because it's almost the same character, someone who comes into a family and fucks things up. So I saw him back to back, guys. I didn't see Buckaroo Banzai yet. I only saw him in Shoot the Moon in this movie. And I'm like, this guy is the worst person you can bring into any family ever, apparently.
And then you find out that he knows karate, that he's in a band, that he's a top-notch scientist, that he travels
He's a jazz
through time.
saxophonist.
Saved the world.
And that he is fully theater trained, like 100%. And he brings a coolness to these films that, and when I say coolness, I mean an iciness. Like he's so icy, and it makes, and that's why I said that he's more powerful in the scenes. The human interaction scenes is where I really get the anger, and he scares me. When he starts beating his ass, I'm just like, anybody could do that.
Yeah.
You know, but when after that scene at the steakhouse, Jake goes into the kitchen, he's pouring, and he pushes him in the back, and he goes, "Get off my back." And that's the moment I remember, even as a kid, seeing and saying, "Oh shit, things are going to go downhill quickly here. This is not about."
And I really struggled to come up with something post RoboCop that I'm like, what a great Peter Weller performance. Like, I know that I've seen him in, the last 25 years.
I liked him in Longmire, but
but
it was just a supporting role,
right? And that's a struggle to come up with a name like that. That's not anything that most people have seen.
Jumped to mind immediately, but
but you're a film guy. Yeah,
I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, he could have been an interesting, like, I think of Scott Glenn in Urban Cowboy. I think of roles like that when I see Peter Weller in this film, which is someone I've never seen before who plays the bad guy, but he does it in this particular way that's not obvious.
Right.
And when I just saw Urban Cowboy when I was a kid too, I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? It scared the shit out of me. And then you would see him later, but Scott Glenn's career actually took a very interesting trajectory, and he played more interesting roles. Peter Weller after RoboCop.
No.
Yeah.
Well, Shakedown was after RoboCop, but everything else is.
But it was probably in the can.
Probably.
I would guess RoboCop came out while he was shooting Shakedown.
I mean, Naked Lunch was weird, but yeah.
To Chad's point, like, there's so much of that kind of pervasive tension building between him and Jake, where it would be so hard for Jake to go to his mom and explain clearly why he has a bad feeling.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's so overt that's like, well, Jesus, let's nip this in the bud right here and we'll kick him out. Like, again, it's this really parasitic way of squirming his way into the family, coming in with the gifts, being the cool guy, and then just turning up the temperature on this fucking pot of boiling water.
To Sean's point, that's what I was really looking for in this time around. What Sean was just talking about, that's exactly what I was looking for at this point is why is Jake hate this guy so much, like right off the bat? And he explains it in the scene when he goes with his girlfriend to the mall. She gets naked or whatever the hell that scene is. But before that, he's talking to her and he's like, she's trying too hard. And she goes, "What's wrong with that?" And he goes, "Well, what's wrong with listening to my instincts?" And that's the scene I really glommed onto, because it's like, that's what this is. And that's where Apted really comes into play, because he knows from his documentary films, especially adolescents work on instinct. They don't work on logic. And that is his whole reasoning through this whole film. Once he gets that instinct, he can't escape it. It's over. for him.
Yeah, and that could have been conveyed in one simple look or a touch, or just kind of a backpedaling out of a plan, whatever it was that could, and Colette's right. Like, his instincts are good in this movie. His character, like, he was right.
I think when he first meets him and the guy's bitching about his career.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Again, also, like, they're eating breakfast and he just wanders out of their mom's room. I mean, it's like, I don't know, man.
That's not a good thing.
I like when he was trying to smooth that over in the next scene they have together. I did
at least a couple more buttons, for crying out loud.
He didn't believe in buttons in this film.
And he's just like, oh, I'm rubbing his eyes. I'm hungover, damn it. You got any coffee? Yeah.
Oh boy, your mom.
Good luck.
Yeah.
No,
it's a hot piece of ass.
Wildcat.
Did the night they drove Dixie down scene, did that still give you flashbacks to your childhood in the valley?
My dad is going to hate this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. I don't care. But my dad's house was that house.
Okay. Complete with a pinball machine?
No, it should have.
Okay.
My dad didn't do blow ever, but his friends sure did. And
it was the 80s.
1984.
Before 84, I was going there watching the Z channel from 80 to 80, whatever. 80. I'd go on the weekends. My dad was, he dated Playmates. His friends were famous. And
I mean, he was friends with Kenny Rogers. Not to say that Kenny Rogers was doing coke, but he was friends with Kenny Rogers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of. More Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
And
way cooler. I'm a big Burt
fan.
Way
Cooler. And a lot of other dudes, a lot of hangers on who are weird, and they all wore cowboy hats because he worked in the Western genre, which in the 80s was the cool genre to work in, frankly. It's kind of hard to believe now, but in the early 80s, if you worked in Westerns, you were a badass.
I can see that.
So if you think of movies like anything that Burt Reynolds, Stoker Ace and all these car movies, they're all wearing cowboy hats. It's all cowboy hats. So I would wander in the living room and they'd be blasting the Eagles. They didn't like the band, but they liked the Eagles. And there would be nefarious happenings all the time. And my brother and I are like, okay, let's just go back to our rooms. So I did see way more than a young man should see. But at the same time, that scene was the scene for me. That was my Friday the 13th. That scene, I didn't need him beating his ass later or a motorcycle fucking race. I don't need that bullshit. I needed him going out in the living room with the band blasting, and like he had like 5 lines going. It's it's like a lot of lines.
And he half-assedly sort of put his hands in front of it, but you can still see. And he waited. The lines were out, and he saw the kid, and then sort of took a beat before he's like, oh, maybe I should try to make it look like I'm shielding him from seeing what's actually happening here.
And I like at the end of that scene, he turns to Teri Garr and goes, "You're up," and she goes.
Do you think that this was a regional thing, and in California it was the Eagles, and in the Northeast it was the band?
Big time.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles is 100% California coke action, but the band, I mean, I wonder, is it more East Coast or Canadian, or where? I mean,
I think it'd be more East Coast. They recorded their albums in Woodstock.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Even though they're all Canucks except for Levon.
Yeah, man. And so when I saw the movie, it hit close to home, not with me and my mom and my brother at all. No. It only hit close to home because it was about a single mother and 2 sons.
Nobody's on the fucking lacrosse team on the West Coast.
Dude.
No, I didn't even know what the fuck that was when I saw it. I was like, what is that shit? You know?
Very Northeastern bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a nice little kind of, if we find the comedic relief outside of Robert Downey Jr., it's probably through the coach of the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teaching them how to scrub their balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's something that
head, balls, feet.
Yeah, but that's something
nothing else. Don't clean anything else, right?
Head, crotch, feet. Yeah, never don't use a towel anywhere else.
There's you're just wasting ample real estate with that towel if you're going on the chest.
That scene scared the shit out of me when I was a kid too, and I remember wiping my feet with my towel. I'm not joking. After that scene, I'm like, shit, I gotta fucking wipe a certain way after I get out of the goddamn shower because you lost a testicle.
No, that's really good stuff to kind of glean from movies. Sometimes you get those little life hacks.
Life lessons.
But I think that's something that
this is the keep your testicles life hack.
Like educators will look for kind of these outbursts as signs that there's problems at home. Like, there's no faculty member that actually deduces what's going on in Jake's home from this. But, you know, we have the huge blow up in class with Professor Beard. But there's also like the kind of that more telling scene when Chris is just going absolutely like last Boy Scout on his teammates in practice.
Yeah.
Where it's just this montage of just brutal hits, reckless swings with that lacrosse stick. I mean, a better educator would be able to kind of pull him aside and try to like connect. And that's kind of like where I was thinking this movie was going, was that somebody was going to like just talk to Jake.
Give him a more constructive way to fucking deal with his anger.
Yeah.
I thought you said it was going to be more like a Wildcats thing, and it was going to have like a big lacrosse showdown at the end where everybody would come together.
Yeah. Well, all it was just a cursory like save it for the game, right?
Yeah.
It's
basically game. I want to see it in the game.
See it in the game. But like 4 of your teammates have broken noses.
I mean, they were hitting really hard. I didn't realize you hit that hard.
He like took the stick and he's hit, dude.
But
really
they're like cross checking and stuff. It was brutal.
Yeah. No, the lacrosse stuff was actually really well shot. I was like, well, we should make
again, this kid, it looked like him too. Like even on that, before Sam kind of comes into it, where he does that like jump and he kind of gets his legs taken out from him.
That was crazy. Yes, he was airborne. That was crazy.
Like flying over the camera, basically.
Again, pre-Twilight Zone.
Yes.
I also learned not to write a English paper about Rocky. I will never do that.
You saw who that was, right?
Yeah, that was
Josh Hamilton.
Absolutely,
that was Josh Hamilton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I'm gonna rewatch that.
Yeah, so weird. Like it was all of these like weird little pops here or there where you're like, "What the fuck is that, Josh Hamilton?" And it is.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I kind of like the teacher's dialogue. That guy's dialogue was gold, though, man. It's like, whoop, whoop, boring alert.
He's such a prick. Oh, God. I had flashbacks to a fucking shithead civics teacher I had in 8th grade. Like, he was picking on a buddy of mine, and so I was just like, what the fuck's your problem? And basically, like, 2 people just started, like, whenever he would, like, jump on my friend, me and this one girl would be like, what's wrong with you, Mr. Unixt? And yeah, I called him out. Fuck you, Mr. Unixt.
Mr. Unixt?
Like, we would call, like, we would fucking Unixt, but we would call him out in class. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why are you just picking on him? Like, there's no need for this. But those teachers who, like, are just total fucking assholes.
Yeah.
And, like, needlessly, like, picking on kids, like, what is your end game there,
This
guy?
was the decade for that, especially the early mid part. Like, it wasn't until the end of the 80s where they're like, maybe we have a good teacher. Maybe we get an Edward James Olmos or a Robin Williams or a Morgan Freeman in here.
Maybe.
Or Tom Berenger.
Yeah.
You know, Tom Berenger was supposed to play Peter Weller. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got in a car accident.
That would have been crazy. That's right.
It would have been menacing in a different way, right?
Yeah. Totally different. I don't know if it would have been.
He would have been word manning at him.
Yeah.
And then he would have brought in his black friend to play saxophone and rip off Springsteen.
So if Tom Berenger does Firstborn, does Peter Weller play Jake Taylor in Major League?
I don't know if he has the build
maybe
to
he
be
plays
a Major League.
Wordman and Eddie and the Cruisers. I don't know. I don't know how the cycle works. Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's funny that you guys bring that up because I was watching this film contextually this time too about the 80s, and the 80s did have a problem, and I noticed in this film with authority figures, right? Mm-hmm. It was a big you see any of those teenage films, it's always any John Hughes movie, for Christ's sakes, is Breakfast Club, whatever. It's always authority. And in a way, this is a really interesting snapshot of that era because kids literally had no power. None.
Right.
If you were a teacher, you were to be trusted. In fact, a teacher would say to your kid's a little bastard. The mother would be like, well, it's up to you. You know, I don't. And so
parents did not believe their children in the 80s.
Did not believe their children in those days. And
to be fair, they probably shouldn't have believed them if it was regarding me, but.
And look what happened,
Look what happened. You got to call your teacher a lightweight and say he's competing with a bunch of 14-year-olds.
I loved when he called him a lightweight. Lightweight and fucking mic drop.
Yeah, and he's like,
I loved it.
And then he's gonna go
Jump on my
fucking tantrum
dirt bike.
like he's basically like pre-Kenny Powers with a jet ski, out just doing circles in the jet ski,
the
pouting.
cube, it's pretty
No,
awesome.
this is. I mean, the big one is he is doing the Kevin Bacon Footloose warehouse dance.
That's it.
Sure, the rage dance,
and it's happening before
Mm-hmm.
Footloose. I think this is pre-Footloose.
This is pre-Footloose, yeah.
Well, this begat all of that.
Yeah, I mean,
This is probably
every
the most
angry
important movie ever.
teenager montage began with Firstborn's dirt bike. Fuck you.
I mean, it's in the title, Firstborn, right?
Yeah.
John Hughes saw this, and then he wrote Breakfast Club the next day.
So, were your hopes for a positive return to Firstborn met or dashed on this rewatch?
They weren't dashed. I loved it. I thought, again, I do remember, because I watch a lot of these. I love Roger Ebert. I love Ebert and Siskel. I watched him religiously when I was a kid. I do remember the review for this movie. And Ebert, I remember him saying it very clearly. He loved it until the end. And he said, what the hell happened? Why did this become a stupid freaking horror film? And he gave it 2 stars.
Yeah.
I'm not that hard on it because, again, Ebert was reviewing it when a lot of good films were coming out in the 80s. We have less good films now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially character films were really lacking. And so for me, when I ever see a movie with character development, family, and anything, I'm in. And even if it ends shitty, I know it's the 80s. It doesn't bother me when a studio comes in and changes things a little because I got 90% of what I needed out of it. And what I got out of it was good directing, good script, really interesting script. I don't know if that writer wrote all the lines those kids had, but that's exactly how teenagers talked at that time. And I just thought it was authentic.
I would guess that some of it's apted, like trusting his instincts and like, okay, say this, get the gist of what the lines are, but like put it in your own,
I think
put
so
your own
too.
spin on it. But
Truly felt that. Yeah. How about you guys?
To Ebert's point and what you just brought up there, like I think like that's the failure is that we try to please everybody. We try to give this compelling, very personal family drama, this amped up, like rock and roll thriller type of thing. When really like I don't know. I thought like there would be more trickery or cunning on Jake's part to kind of like get Sam busted in a kind of a clever way. Like he'd be able to outsmart this guy.
He'd clearly never seen a movie.
Yeah.
Like when he's sitting there at the dining room table, just smirking like a son of a bitch. It's like, wait, your big plan is to fucking hide it and then just like say, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
And fuck off to your bedroom and wait for him to fucking come get you. Like,
wait for him to go
with
through
his goons.
every other
the
square
instant
foot
he
of
goes
the house,
upstairs and starts ripping the bedroom apart, you fuck off. You get out of there.
you get out of there. Yeah, and I think like even Weller's character at that point, he has come back. He has his drugs. And yet he still almost kills 3 people. You do not leave the house with your tail tucked between your legs because you got kicked in the balls a couple times. Like he's coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
He's committed multiple felonies, like at least attempted murder, drug trafficking. Like he's done a lot of shit. You call the police at that point.
Do you know how he leaves that house? He leaves that house as if he did kill all 3 of them, and those are their ghosts standing in the window.
Truly. Yeah.
No, it's
He
like
left
it's
that
what.
house-
Are
what's
we
the
sure
Nicole
that's
Kidman
not what
movie?
actually happened?
Exactly. What's the Nicole Kidman movie?
He fucking killed them all. This is my hot take, guys.
Yeah. I like it. I like it.
Came up with.
I like it.
He
It's a
kills
better
them all,
ending than the one it has.
and he staggers out of that house with his drugs, like way too many prints in that house to worry about covering it up.
I don't want to
he's
get to the fix this movie segment
Yeah,
yet. That's why I'm like chomping at the bit to
yeah,
respond, but I can't without getting
don't
Hey,
do it.
to
look,
it.
this is not
Yeah.
fixing that movie. This is
Well,
just-
what I thought at the end, actually, to be honest with you, is like, well, he got away with it because she bought the Coke and he's leaving with the Coke.
Yeah.
So
I know. And now he can go
Not
sell
him.
it. Yeah.
You know, now he's going to go make a profit and buy that restaurant.
But what if his testicles ruptured? I mean, this movie definitely
Well,
plants the losing a
you only
testicle
need
seed.
one. You only need one, according to the gym teacher.
He might have lost them both. We
They
don't know. He
didn't
got
kick him
kicked in the
that
junk
hard.
pretty hard.
It was a teenage kick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a teenage kick. It wasn't some.
And he's a lacrosse player. It's not like he's like the kicker on the football team or something, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't some steel.
He's not Kathy Ireland in Necessary Roughness.
Exactly.
I know exactly how that meeting went. They said, "Hey, did you see the numbers for My Bloody Valentine? Did you see the numbers for Friday the 13th Part 3?
Yep.
We got to have them be ominous. I mean, even with the truck going in the alley,
Yeah.
dun, 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 and then the guy helping him, and you hear the music. It becomes a fucking ridiculous horror movie. And
with the mist in the rail yard when he's riding his bicycle through it, it's like it's great.
It doesn't play. It just is a different movie. And I shut down around that part. There is one effective scene in that whole mishmash of nonsense is when Peter Weller comes back in the house, knocks the door down, takes his head, and says, "You will hurt your mother."
Oh yeah,
that scene was good. And if they could have stuck with something a little bit more vicious that way, instead of him being this ominous creature.
Sure.
Jake is a smart kid. At some point, though, he believes that a coke-fueled Peter Weller can be restrained by the smallest little latch on a kitchen. I wouldn't even call that a door. It's a door net. That, like, scrimshaw fucking... Whatever that was that, like... Let me get that eye hook through this because Peter Weller is charging through a laundry room window.
Yeah.
His pupils are dilated and he's coming for you.
He has way more buttons unbuttoned now.
He did one of those 5 bags of Coke.
Seriously.
He's been listening to the band's whole catalog.
He's presumably already killed the mustachioed guy who wrecked the dirt bike.
He music from the Big Pink all the way from where the car accident was to the house. Okay, so let's jump into. I have no idea what Sean's segment is because he didn't write in the fucking sheet again. But Sean, your segment.
I don't acknowledge your sheet. And again, I've already kind of discussed a couple of my hot takes, but I definitely think Peter Weller's career was derailed by RoboCop. I think like this guy is so fucking talented. He has like a Steppenwolf kind of energy to him. Yeah. I looked up. He hadn't trained there, but this is like a Malkovich.
He's pre Steppenwolf.
He's pre. Yeah, this is 70s New York. Like this is hardcore actor.
Yeah.
And he's mega. He's mega.
Yeah. And I do really think that you know, I hadn't read that thing that Chad brought up about Ebert, but I do think Ebert's kind of spot on there. It doesn't sound like Ebert is giving...
In his written review, he said he felt cheated after a strong open.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he's bringing up, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, like studio involvement, right? Like not giving the possibility that like somebody stepped in, some producer said, well, look at these metrics before that was even a word. And we got to give something to the people who want that final 25 minutes adrenaline. But you have appeased those people at the cost of a really cool early 80s family drama. I mean, except for that fucking score. Like, this thing is really kind of lived in and really kind of subtle with a lot of it. And I wish that this kid had done a lot more, too, because Collette's a good actor.
Yeah.
And Haim is a really good actor.
Yep.
There's that great scene. We haven't talked about it yet in the fucking pizzeria.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Love that scene.
So good. Because when Jake says, Mom still cares about us, and Haim looks his brother dead in the fucking eyes and says, no, she doesn't.
Yeah.
You believe Haim.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, like and shout out, we should all believe Haim. But you definitely believe that this kid, this 12-year-old, whatever he is, does not believe that his mother cares for him anymore.
Yeah.
And it's kind of shown that she doesn't. Even when, after all the kind of physical violence that Sam has demonstrated, she's still like, Jake, just give him what he wants. Not like, I'm going to go to the other room and call the cops, and I don't care if I fucking go to jail.
Well, she can't. The phone's been ripped out, though.
Then I can go to the neighbors.
Yeah, go to the neighbor's
He didn't
house.
lock the fucking doors.
Yeah.
Speaking of Haim, Adam, your segment.
Yeah, see, unlike Sean, I write down my segments so Josh has an idea of what I'm going to talk about. And Sean might pick a different one, or I can pick a different one. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about the tragedy of Corey Haim's life and career, because this is the first time I've seen this movie. This was his first major movie. He had been on, I think, some TV shows in Canada at this point, like just small stuff, not even like stuff that warrants an IMDb credit. And he's fucking fantastic. Like as a child actor, it's like nuanced, it's heartfelt. Like I identify with this kid so much. Like I could see that kid being my own kid, like in a few years. And it's brutal. And then he goes on to Lucas, and he goes on to Lost Boys, and he gets this big career. And God damn it, his life goes off the rails. And it is so sad what Hollywood did to him.
Well, his first movie is this.
This
and
is
he
his
has
first
the scene,
movie.
he has that fucking moment on set where Peter Weller throws him into the
Throws him
fucking
against the
wall.
Uh-huh.
Then he goes to Lucas and is allegedly raped by fucking Charlie Sheen.
Now, according to his mom, it was not Charlie Sheen that raped him. It was another guy named Dominic Brescia that raped him. But either way.
Corey Feldman alleged that it was Charlie Sheen.
Exactly. And I couldn't do enough research on Judy Haim to get a full opinion, but I have a feeling, just from what I gather, and this is all like allegations, that there's the kind of people that their kids start making a lot of money in Hollywood and they start living pretty fat off of that, and it changes your life. And maybe you put the kids in situations that you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
There was a time in New York where I thought about getting Max, my kid. He's very outgoing and a performer, and I thought about trying to get him into work, and I'm pretty glad I didn't. Because,
well, we also host a podcast about SVU where fucking kid actors are like traumatized every fucking week.
Well, and I ran into people that know the Phillips sisters, and what happens to kids that are too famous, too young. Anyways, just poor guy. He died when he was 38 years old from pneumonia, which was clearly caused by his never-ending drug habit, which started shortly after Lucas, or maybe on set of Lucas. Yeah. He was dating Alyssa Milano as early as 1987, and her parents tried to get him into rehab when he was 16 years old.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it's just really sad because, look how much talent this guy had.
Yep. Yeah, this is like the raw fucking unshaped Corey Haim, and he's fucking great in this.
He's fantastic.
Quick fact about his passing. Don't mean to interrupt, but now that we're on the subject, Christopher Collet and Corey Haim stayed friends, and they were in this hilariously bad movie that I recommend to all of you guys called Prayer for the Roller Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Christopher Collet plays the lead bad guy. And then, I mean, they're white supremacists on rollerblades. It gives you an idea of how brilliant this thing is. And they stayed friends. And Christopher Collet was one of his pallbearers at his funeral.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, I was just thinking his kind of on-screen cohort, Corey Feldman, was kind of a crosstown shooting his own slasher movie, his own villain movie around the same time, fending off Jason Voorhees.
Yep.
That's right.
That's right. Anyways, just pour one out for a super talented kid who got done dirty by the system.
You see it here.
Yeah.
He did a movie right after this, a really good movie right after this called Murphy's Romance.
Oh, Murphy's Romance is fucking great.
Great. And Corey Haim did it right after this, and he played a son of a single mother again, played by Sally Field, and it was directed by great Martin Ritt, and he is so fucking good in that movie.
James Garner's great in that too.
James Garner's great, and I've never seen an actor in the 80s in particular. There's a lot of good actors, but there's something about him in this film and in Murphy's Romance way before he got pushed into the front of the camera, like as Lucas, for example, where he played it so naturally, you left the theater thinking about that guy the most, It's a really good performance in that same scene that Sean was talking about in the pizza restaurant, right after that piece of dialogue. And he goes, "No, she doesn't care about us." And Christopher Collet goes, "How do you know that?" And he goes, "Because I know what I feel."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his voice breaks when he says it. And I was like, fuck, that was the most genuine piece of acting in the whole film. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was directed, as we mentioned, by Englishman and BAFTA-winning director Michael Apted. Apted is probably best known for what he started working on, the Up series, which began back in 1964. It started with 14 7-year-olds in England and was conceived to explore the thesis that the class system was still very much in place in the UK. He directed all but the first part, which was directed by Paul Almond. He was a researcher and assistant to the director on the first one. But it's happened every 7 years. They've come back to all of the original 14. And so it started at a 7 Up, and then 63 Up aired on ITV in 2019. Yep. So it was still going. Apted died in 2021. He died, right? He died in 2021, January 2021. Oh, got it. He actually died on January 7th of 2021. So I'm not sure that January 6th didn't kill him.
plot
Is anybody going to pick up the torch for 70 Up?
I don't know. We'll see. After 7 Up, he started directing TV and slowly made the transition over to feature directing through the 70s, eventually breaking into Hollywood with the 1979 feature Agatha, about when Agatha Christie disappeared.
With Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, and one of the Redgraves.
Yeah.
Vanessa, I think.
Vanessa Redgrave. Yeah, not a good movie, but I've seen it.
But his next movie after that was 7-time Oscar nominee and won 1 Oscar for Sissy Spacek. Coal Miner's Daughter, based on Loretta Lynn's life. He also directed Gorillas in the Mist, Incident at Oglala, which is great. Another documentary. Thunderheart, Nell, The World Is Not Enough, Enough, and the 3rd Chronicles of Narnia film. I didn't even know there were more than 1.
He became a director for hire, basically.
Yeah, big time. He was also DGA president from 2003 to 2009, which is weird.
Wow.
Yeah. This was filmed at Kaufman Astoria Studios in New York City and on location in New Jersey and New York, shooting from mid-April to mid-June of 1984, so about 2 months of shooting. Sarah Jessica Parker and Robert Downey Jr. met on set and eventually got together and dated until 1991.
When did she and Broderick get together?
After he
killed some people.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that, and yet it was still funny.
You had to toss it up, right?
Well, it's been, we've had it in every single episode. We've talked about it.
So.
Oh my god! And he has yet to show up himself.
I know.
And you guys didn't invite me till now?
We've found a way to wedge that. Adam and I talk about it all the time on Munch My Benson, but he does fucking VO work for car commercials. What the fuck? He straight up killed 2 people in Ireland.
Don't want him to be the face of your brand. Yeah.
If you're a car company, sure as fuck not.
Is it a British car company? Because that would make sense.
No.
Well, yeah. If it was British and he had killed 2 Irishmen, I could understand.
Oh yeah, then it'd be a big fuck.
Jaguar has them all over it. Yeah.
Rolls Royce.
Or if he was Irish and he drove the car into an English pub and had it explode.
Right, and somehow survived.
So this had a 36 on Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes is kind of hard to gauge with a movie is sold because so many are reviews well after the fact. I had a 56 on Metacritic, which I think Metacritic's probably the better metric by which to go if there are enough reviews. Janet Maslin at the New York Times and Jay Carr at the Boston Globe gave it good marks. Paul Atanasio then at the Washington Post, who obviously went on to write Oscar-nominated films, and whose brother is the owner of the Brewers, said it was a pamphleteer's parable of how drugs destroy families, which means he did not like it. I think that's kind of bullshit. It's really about
that's that's just nonsense.
Because it's not really about the drugs are kind of. It's not the
They're
drugs. It's
piece,
Peter Weller. It's
exactly.
This is a parable about how Peter Weller ruins families.
Yeah.
He probably had ruined a few by that point.
For sure.
So is it just say no to Peter Weller?
Yes, just say no to Peter Weller.
This is your brain on Peter Weller.
I learned it from watching you, Peter Weller.
Hey kids, listen up. This is Mr. T. I want you to stay away from Peter Weller.
Well, he ruined the family in Shoot the Moon before this film.
Sure,
I urge you to watch it. He ruined the shit out of that family.
I fully intend to watch it. This made $6.25 million at the box office, which translates to about $18 million now. It finished just behind Buckaroo Banzai, another Peter Weller movie.
Yeah.
This was against an $8 million budget, which is about $23 million now. So in 1984 dollars, it lost $1.75 million.
Yeah.
It probably made the money back in home video money. It probably got back to even at least. So I guess we'll start with picking up the scraps. Is there anything that we've missed that anyone wants to talk about?
We've had a lively discussion.
We've really talked shit out of Firstborn.
A lot of this.
Yeah.
Oh, so when he finds the pills, I was kind of curious. Do we think those were Quaaludes or Speed? Maybe Speed with the Coke, Quaaludes with the weed, or
Speedball?
I think they're Quaaludes.
Downers. Yeah.
Downers. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have your
downers.
downers.
Him watching The Price is Right at 2 p.m. You know.
Yeah.
It felt late for The Price is Right. I feel like The Price is Right is a morning show and not an afternoon show.
I
feel like it's always on at like 10 or 11 a.m. depending on if you're Eastern time or Central time.
Where is it on? When is it? Like West Coast? Oh yeah, I
West
guess
Coast would be back to a
East
same
Coast is the
Eastern.
morning.
It'd be 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Shout out to the metal bar and the sliding door method of locking your house.
Oh,
That was a big part of my
But you always
growing up.
forget the basement, man.
Same.
Yeah.
Always forget the basement. That's where all the riffraff comes in.
I want to know what happened to the actor who was in the house. Who's like, "Who are you? How did you get in?" I
love that guy. Love that guy. Who's wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night while he has a bathrobe on?
If there was a maniac too, he should take Fishman eligible. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. He says that he played minor league ball.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Josh is going to be pissed about the verisimilitude.
I'm shocked that you did not look into this, Adam.
I mean, I assumed you would look into this.
Okay.
It seems...
Sam Malone?
Yeah.
Well, he said he played minor league ball in the Phillies organization in Nebraska.
Does that check out?
He did not, because that is not possible.
There's only the Omaha, whatever they are, Storm Chasers
Omaha
now, right?
So obviously he's born in 47. Real life Peter Weller is. So even if you put him in 1950, the point at which he'd be playing minor league ball would be at the earliest 1968, 65, or 65 to 68. That could be the earliest point at which he could be.
Uh-huh.
Well, you guys are good, man. You guys are good.
I looked into this so much more.
Josh spent all day looking this up.
It didn't take that long. Most of the historical minor league baseball in Nebraska was more of the independent league variety. The only city which had an official affiliate in Nebraska was Omaha, which has been Cardinals, Dodgers, and then Royals. So obviously not Philly affiliated. There were also Western League teams in Hastings and Lincoln before the fucking American League and National League merged and played the World Series in 1903. So if you go back to the 80s and 90s, there were teams in Hastings and Lincoln, Nebraska, in an arguable professional league, but there were no affiliated teams in Nebraska other than in Omaha.
I am learning so much.
So now we know the real reason why Jake didn't trust him.
Yeah, because he knows minor league ball.
Jake knew.
Did you look up where the Phillies affiliate was in
the whole time?
They were out east. There were
mid-late 60s. Yeah,
Nebraska's not a state where you have actual.
That's what Jake was thinking right that moment.
Because it's
liar.
like major league teams didn't fly in 1965.
That's how he knows he's a bullshitter.
You know? Yeah, much
Imagine
less.
Imagine getting
minor
a call
league
up to the show and being like, "All right, it's a 4-day bus ride." But
seriously.
And I mean, like Midwest League has teams, but the Phillies aren't putting teams in the Midwest League, and Midwest League doesn't have any teams in fucking Nebraska. It never has.
So there's probably a cut scene where Jake goes to the library and looks at some baseball almanac and his fingers scroll down and
Reading is not in Nebraska.
Not only you a cokehead.
I'm gonna have to fucking put that in the show notes for fucking source material now. I closed the window. I'm gonna have to find it again.
Oh no!
Because it's not Sports Cube. Baseball Cube doesn't have it back far enough. But
doesn't Reference have that stuff?
That's insane. That's insane. I'm flabbergasted by all of that.
Did you think when you were like, hey, maybe we could do Firstborn, that we would spend like, we would get down to the granular, of baseball minor league?
Dude,
to know that he's a liar.
Dude, a couple weeks ago, I had to hear Josh get incensed about a fucking movie from 1994 screwing up Iowa license plates.
Oh, I was very pissed. The Puppet Masters totally fucked up Iowa license plates. That actually would have bothered Sean too. If Sean had seen those, he would have been like, that's bullshit. Those aren't what Iowa license plates work.
Frankly, it's why I've stayed away.
Yeah.
But yet, this guy watches Midnight Run and has no problem with there being fucking mountains in Amarillo, Texas, which there's not a mountain within a day's drive of there.
I know that it's obviously not Amarillo, but that's not art department. That's like, what the fuck are we going to do? We're shooting in Amarillo. That doesn't bother me as much. That's not a problem. It's art department.
So the thing that pisses you off about Cobra the most is there's a chase scene from downtown LA to Marina Del Rey in 5 seconds, basically. That's the only thing. Everything else is cool.
I have a big problem with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way pushing his broken down car from Nicollet Island to downtown.
He was Mr.
St.
Universe, dude. He can do that.
Dude, he's not pushing his car 14 miles. I'm sorry.
Have you seen his abs? Have you seen them?
That's quads.
I think that's the thing that pissed me off the least about Jingle All the Way. I'm gonna
I did get pissed in Untamed Heart when they're chasing her off in one direction and then they're like, oh, now we're in fucking Northeast. Like,
if
You can't watch Purple Rain anymore because all the streets are
He
backwards,
drives the wrong
right?
way, leaving fucking First Ave.
So
It's a one-way.
Disclaimer: if you are looking for a continuity expert in shooting a film in the Twin Cities area, look no further than our co-host here, Josh Dugan.
Josh is the one who actually made LA Plays Itself, by the way.
I wish.
Oh wow, I
wish.
love that, Josh. You did. Wow, you haven't told us that. That's an ace card.
I do want to give credit to Bosch, which is almost always geographically specifically correct.
Yep.
That show is like very spot on with like, oh no, this is how, like it's not playing LA like, 24 would. Whatever. Big digression.
Or the Rockford Files.
Yeah.
For me, and this is my last word on it, I got some good dating advice from this film. I am single.
Okay.
And I am 50. So, I'm going to meet a single mom probably.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to complain about my job.
Sure,
when I
don't
meet
do that.
The 15-year-old. It's number one.
Are you going to suck her into your bizarre scheme to not make that much money, but use her money as collateral for that scheme?
Oh, totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
As long as you bring a pinball machine in.
So you learned that from this also.
Keep my coat in a better place.
Uh-huh.
And more importantly, don't pass out on the couch.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how fucked up you are. Just try to get to the bedroom.
It's not that hard.
It's just a shitty thing when your proposed stepson brings his cool friends by and you're just like eating a frozen pizza off your chest and watching Price is Right.
Yeah. I'll be watching my Blu-rays of The Twilight Zone, but that's cool. I'll be like, you guys like The Twilight Zone?
Come on in.
I mean, I got that shit tattooed on my arm. You see what I'm saying?
Is that Vic Morrow?
No, that is Rod Serling.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
nice. It would be weird to have a Vic Morrow tattoo, but
I don't want Vic Morrow on my arm. Did I have the helicopter above him? Or
yeah, right.
You just got your Excalibur tat, right?
I did. I was on the slab for 5 hours last night.
It looks very detailed per social media.
Oh, it's good shit.
Is there a word bubble that says "Let the boy try"?
Oh, you can't see it on there, can you?
No.
No.
Closer. I think it's actually go closer.
No,
Oh, no, that won't work at all, man.
Oh, actually, do you care if I pull it up?
Pull it up.
I can go to
5 hours, and that's one reason I might not be sounding completely clear tonight. I felt like I lost some brain cells last night.
Yeah.
It was a rough ride, but
Well,
great
Josh
artist.
is pulling that up. Should we go around the corner and talk about our, or around the room and talk about our gripes with the film?
Let's do one gripe per person since we've run somewhat long, but one major gripe.
Yeah. Starting with you, Chad.
Oh, the easy one, the end.
Yeah.
The third act. Just shit, garbage. It shouldn't have been in there. That's my gripe.
I'll second that. I think the Hallmark Channel score takes so much power away from the movie.
Yeah.
I love the soundtrack. The score can suck it. What do you say to Sam?
Go
chew a nasty dick.
Eat my shit. What did he say?
Eat my shit.
No, it's not that.
Shit, dickhead.
It's not that.
Do you care if I show your Instagram picture? It's going to have everything.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go show me with all those single moms.
Okay.
There it is.
Oh,
shit,
nice.
I remember that. Yep.
That is Mordred from Excalibur.
Wow.
That was the son.
That is the bastard son of our.
Is it Morgana?
Morgana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Morgana's son. Yeah.
Check out those armored nips, man.
The fucking A, man. I said make sure the
Batman
nips
and Robin ripped that
out.
off.
Yeah.
That was I guess.
Those nips are on my leg now.
Nice. I mean, those are some sweet nips to have on your leg.
Not to be messed with, Mordred.
No. Scared the fuck out of me when I was a kid. Still scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
So, Sean, do you have your major gripe? Is it just
I already mentioned it.
Yeah.
I mean, just real quick though, like I'm pretty happy with this movie. Like my gripes are certainly outweighed by the positives of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like exactly. I mean, I think that it's like a pleasure for the first 2/3 of the movie, and then it's just so kind of it jumps the shark so hard that it's kind of fun as it ends up anyways. At least it's something's happening.
I kind of appreciate just like, fuck it. We're just going to like, it's just this other thing now. I can kind of appreciate that. Like, it is jarring, but I think there's still some fun to be had with how insane the end is.
It's like, it's the real shitty friend of yours that loses at a board game and flips the table. Yeah. Like, that's Weller. Just fuck it.
As soon as he takes his belt off.
I also thought to myself, and maybe you guys could think this to yourself, how else were they going to end this, honestly? Even with studio interference, I mean, are they going to make this a lifetime? I mean, are they going to have a long
I would have liked the brothers working in cahoots to somehow, you know...
Should we get to how we fix the movie then?
Yeah, let's do that. Because I think all of our major gripe is just how incongruent the ending is compared to the first, hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I got a hot
how
take.
would we fix this? Adam.
I take the cocaine out.
No coke.
No coke.
Okay.
Just make it that Peter Weller is an unhinged, lying, bad dude. And he tears their family apart. And how you end it is a little tough to say. But maybe you don't end it with like something so satisfying as they neatly pack his bags whilst he's beating up her kids and puts it down, and then he kicks him in the nuts once, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to leave. And he leaves. I mean, it doesn't have to be that neat. It can just be like the family's falling apart. And also the other thing I would do is I would maybe not have Dad's life be so like coldly perfect, right? Like
jet setting,
he's wearing a suit and he's in London or he's in Montreal or something. Like have Dad be a little bit more... I mean, maybe
Here's
the
his
point is that
about-to-be wife who you're not invited to the wedding for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fucked up. That's cold.
I almost had this idea of the kids running away to Alaska like they talked about. And then it says, fast forward like 3 or 4 years later, and they're walking down the streets of Jersey and they see the mother and Peter Weller begging for change.
Oh,
no, that'd be awesome.
I was going to say, or they're on the streets of Albuquerque, like leaned over after taking a hit of fentanyl or something, because I could see that happening.
Well, you see that happening every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Sean, how would you fix this?
New score.
I love it. Your complaint about May December. Your biggest complaint about May December is the score, which I get it. I totally get it. I did just see it, and what the fuck?
I'm so like affected and hyper observant of scores nowadays. I don't know what's happened to me in the last like 5 years, but a score like can make or break a movie for me.
You can have a film shot in Super 8 that's still good if the sound quality is good, right? And the score is so important.
There's a movie that's okay that not a lot of people talked about last year about Emily Bronte called Emily, and that to me is the best score of the last 10 years, hands down.
There's a movie called Mandy, Sean. I don't know
which has the best score ever.
It has,
Okay, fair enough.
Best score ever. I have it on vinyl. Beautiful.
Same.
I'd probably also taper the kind of taboo erotica Oedipal shit a little bit. We didn't need all like the kind of up and down.
Or lean into it more.
Yeah.
Go one way or the other.
That's a whole different movie. And with regard to the end, we don't need the dad coming in to save the day. I think that would completely negate the point of this movie. Like, I heard something in your voice, son, and I came and I showed up just in the nick of time. But fucking neighbors are still neighbors. And like the rampaging rhino fight scene that
it's ridiculous.
Smashed half the house. Cops are there. Like, even if the neighbors aren't coming in to check in, they're calling 911 and saying, I think my hot blonde neighbor and her 2 sons are being fucking murdered.
There's a wild boar inside their house. Please come help.
Yes, named Peter Weller. And maybe he did kill them all because I love that last shot, but boy, is it haunting.
I think that you have him plant the coke in his car without him knowing, in the Ram or whatever, Bronco.
It was a sick Bronco, dude.
Yeah.
I want that car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a former Grand Wagoneer driver, I miss that fucking thing so much. I'd love to drive that Bronco. But I think you plant it in the car and then you cut the brake cables so next time he's driving.
Not bad. But you can't call the cops because the mother's going to go down.
You can't phone the cops, but if you cut the brake cables, he at least gets into a car accident that would precipitate a police presence that would then get him arrested for the possession of the fucking...
If you want to keep the coke in it...
Of a heavy weight.
You have to get it to such a bad point where mom calls the cops knowing that she's going to go down for it. And that's like the self-sacrifice. Like finally she's taking a step to
I
take
think
care
that's
of
a
her
really
kids.
good point. I liked Adam's earlier point about maybe losing the drugs. I mean, of course you lose out on the Nancy Reagan endorsement of this movie.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you lose the drugs or you have Teri Garr. She's not going to be able to pull this man off of her kids. She can only take so many slaps, but she can say, I'm lost. My kids are going to be better off with their dad. Fuck it.
I think that's the best ending.
Yeah. Honestly, you make this movie 6 years later as an indie flick that doesn't require action or like big set pieces like that. And I think that Desert Hearts came out in 1984, right? So
it did.
So like this is like the beginning of indie films happening. And so it's just like if it just been a few years later, you release this to festivals, then you have a totally different market for it.
Yeah. I think that's why I hate the ending. I really do. But at the same time, I still enjoy watching it because it brings the 80s right back into the fucking like nobody's business. And it's not shy about it. It's almost like at the end, it's like, by the way, we're in the fucking 80s. Boom. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and then you basically get like, the final act of Out of Bounds or something,
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Honestly, what they should have done is had him do more dirt bike stunts earlier in the film, like have like a dirt bike dancing scene, like where he's alone in his loft.
Big time.
And so then at the end, it's like you're expecting it to come. Yeah, that would have been
It's
nice.
only through his dirt bike finesse that he's able to save his family.
Yeah,
that's right. And then maybe
he
should
could do a triple Lindy
drugs.
flip with a dirt bike or something.
He needs
and
to
that's how he
gleam the
wins.
cube. That's what he should have done with the coke. He should have just gleamed the cube.
Yeah.
You should have planted the drugs in the English English teachers.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
You. What do you call him?
Fucking lightweight.
Lightweight. Fuck you,
lightweight.
lightweight. And
that's such a sick burn, man.
And as
It's
the
pretty good.
cops are swatting his suburban house, somehow he gets the message of "fuck you, lightweight." Yeah.
Yeah. It's like in the
Like he
real
gets-
world,
He
you'd
gets
be
a
grown
fax.
man.
He gets a fax that comes in that says, fuck you, lightweight.
I just hope one day I could say to someone else, in the real world, you'd be a grown man competing with a bunch of 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
I just want to find the opportunity
Don't
somehow.
come back from that.
The scene's so good. It's so
That's
good.
a great scene. Why can't I get the book?
All right, so last bit before we leave, what was each of your favorite moments or elements of the film? Just one apiece.
One apiece.
Yeah.
Should I start?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Your guest goes first, assuming you have one.
I just brought it up. Because it's the one that I feel I just fucking love that classroom scene where he goes ape shit on the teacher.
Yeah.
It just
It's
the dialogue and the vibe in it and the tension, and he's getting back at the guy in front of the kids the guy's been maligning.
Yeah.
I love the shots of the kids that the teacher has been fucking with.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's the fat kid and then the nerd, and you see their faces, and the nerd straight up is like, yeah. I love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that just reminded me of like how you could never ever get away with a line nowadays of like stuffing your face instead of the answers or something, whatever the hell.
Uh-huh.
Oh my! Instead of studying, I was like, holy god.
If you spend as much time studying as you do stuffing your face.
Yeah, that was it. Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, there's just two little moments. Kid actors are so hard, and they can fucking ruin your movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Apted just crushed it. He got
Leaned
two
into it.
really fucking good kid actors. And the two scenes, I mean, the two shots that epitomize this is Corey Haim saying, she doesn't care about me, and I know how I feel. And Christopher Collet looking Peter Weller right in the goddamn coked eyes and saying, don't ever touch me or my brother again.
Yeah.
It's really good
That was
stuff.
great.
Holy shit, man. That's your movie.
Yeah. I think for me, it was like a kind of a one we haven't talked about yet, but the scene right after Teri Garr and Peter Weller fuck off to Lake George and Haim and Colette go to the grocery store, and that scene where they're walking around the grocery store like, well, I guess I'm your dad now kind of scene, and I have to tell you not to get cookies. I love that scene. It's just like, it's basically just like two kids wandering around a grocery store, but there's so much subtext there. Like, what the fuck is going on with their family? Are we going to be okay? And it is definitely left undecided at the end of it. I love that scene. Josh?
Dirt bike tantrum. And how it presages, like, Kenny Powers and fucking Kevin Bacon's rage dancing in the barn.
I'm Kevin Bacon's like rage be 10-speeding in Quicksilver.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Well,
he also does the 10
he fixed
dancing.
wheels and 10. Well, he fixed wheel dances, but then he has a 10-speed for their big race with Larry Fishburne.
They have a sequence like that in Quicksilver. I got to rewatch.
Yeah,
that.
it's in the apartment. He's on the back wheel on the fixie.
He and his girlfriend have the most absurd loft you've ever seen. I mean, this apartment is like
for
easily
bike
$10 million now. But yeah, it's this massive loft, and he's just like bike dancing around the whole thing while his girlfriend, who's a ballet dancer, ballet dances.
One of these days, we're going to do that movie.
Dude, it's a pretty hot scene, honestly.
They were giving away exposed brick lofts in New York for free back then. They must have.
That was it New York or was it San Francisco? There's some steep hills.
Well, before we say goodbye to the listeners at home, where can listeners find you, Chad?
You can find me. I don't have a website or any of that, but you can find my articles, which I write about 3 a month. I just did a review for the Iron Claw. I'm writing right now about a new movie called ISS that's coming out next week. So you can find my articles on laweekly.com or villagevoice.com.
Nice.
And that's where I'm at. And thank you guys.
Do you have a letterbox that you want to publicly put out there?
I told you guys I'm bad at technology, man. I am behind the times.
Just making sure you didn't have a letterboxed.
You're better off that way.
No, I've got an Instagram, and you can let me give you.
Are you public on Instagram?
Yep.
Okay.
You can find my articles there.
Yep.
And my Insta is Chudderino. CHUDDERINO, and all my articles are there. And please come check it out.
And your glorious life is also in full bloom on Instagram.
All the single mothers and their teenage sons.
Sure. Yep.
Complaining about steaks.
Fucking, I need a chainsaw to cut through this shit. We're so glad that you were open to subjecting your childhood to the possibility it'd be ruined on the Unkind.
I hope my mom will be. Yeah.
Hey, your mom did a good thing taking you to this movie. She really did.
Seriously.
She did, man.
Yeah.
She did a good thing for herself. She was protecting herself after this movie. I'll tell you that much.
She was like, I'm never partying again.
Pro move.
I'm like, turn down that Eagles next time. Jesus Christ. You're waking me up. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. First of all, thanks, you guys.
Chad.
Thanks so much, Chad. This was a ton of fun.
Fun movie.
So much fun, and you are a treasure trove of information, gentlemen. Wow. I have never seen this movie squeezed for so much info.
We only ran like 30 minutes longer than the fucking movie's runtime. And we mostly stayed on point.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was still almost all germane to the movie.
This will be our first 2-parter.
If Peter Weller was here, he would just be taking us apart right now. He would just be like, "You little fucks!
Yeah.
You got it all
He'd
wrong."
throw us all against the wall. Yeah,
I think I can take him right now. He's pretty old.
Boy.
he's pretty old.
He's born in 1947. I think I got him. I think I can take him, guys.
I don't know, dude. I've seen the eyes. He's crazy, man.
He is crazy, for sure. You've just listened to another installment of the Unkind Rewind podcast, mining and potentially ruining your childhood for content, one film at a time. Unkind Rewind is a Munchcast production and can be ingested wherever you listen to podcasts and on the Unkind Rewind YouTube channel. Music for this and every other episode of Unkind Rewind was composed by Divorcée Suave. Rate and review Unkind Rewind on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Yelp, IMDb, Consumer Reports, Google Reviews, and TripAdvisor. Links to all of our social media accounts are in our show notes, but you'll find us as @Unkind Rewind Pod on nearly every social media platform that makes sense. If you had a question, concern, complaint, or positive feedback, you can email the podcast at unkindrewindpod@gmail.com, or you can join the lively Muchcast Discord to discuss this or any other episode of The Unkind Rewind with like-minded people. This dialogue with the pod may just make it into the next week's ep, so chat away. The Unkind Rewind Patreon will be coming soon, so start squirreling that pocket change away. Thank you for listening to another Unkind Rewind.